In the xy plane above, ABCD is a square and point E is the center of the square. The coordinates of points C and E are 7 and 2 and 1 and 0 respectively. Which of the following is an equation of the line that passes through points B and D? Let's understand this question. We are offered a square in the xy plane, and xy plane is a two-dimensional plane that has x-axis going from left to right and y-axis going from bottom up. And there are different points that are represented by coordinates of x and y. And we're given two particular points, which is the center of the square, point E, and point C, which is one of the corners of the square. We're asked to find an equation that represents the other diagonal going from point B to point D, the other diagonal of the square, that is. And we should be able to do so, since any problem gives us certain information that we should be able to use to get to the answer. So let's begin. Let's take a quick look at how an equation of the line is. It has the look of y, or f of x, equals slope times x plus y-intercept, or it's also commonly represented in terms of y, or f of x, equals m, representing slope times x, plus b, representing y-intercept. For better understanding of these concepts, please look at the video on graphs. So let's proceed. We're provided the coordinates for 2 points, points C and E. Point C has the coordinates of 7 and 2, which means that at coordinate of x being 7, y coordinate equals 2, and that's the location of the point C. And point E is located at points 1 and 0, which means x coordinate equals 1 at that point, and y coordinate is 0. So we can proceed, and using 2 points, we can find the slope of the line on which these 2 points lie, which represents a diagonal AC, a diagonal of the square. The slope of any line is described as the change in y relative to change in x. And given 2 points, change in y is from point C, y coordinate is 2, to point E, y coordinate is 0, which is the second number of their coordinate locations. So 2 minus 0 represents change in y. And change in x is represented by the change in the x coordinate. For point C, it is number 7, and for point E is number 1. So 7 minus 1. We do the math, and we get 2 over 6. Let's use simplification and divide both numerator and denominator by 2. Since any fraction is the representation of proportion, as long as we divide or multiply numbers both above and below, we're fine. And so by doing so, we get the simplified version of the slope, which is 1 over 3. What this means is that as x changes by 1, y changes by 1/3. The problem asks us to recognize an equation describing line going from points B through point D. As we can see, this is another diagonal of the square that we're provided. And we should know, or even visually, we can probably see that these 2 lines, the diagonal AC and the diagonal BD, are perpendicular to each other, which means they're crossing at the right angle. The right angle obviously is 90 degrees. And we need to know one more piece of information to finally solve this problem. That is that slope of a line perpendicular to a given line equals to the negative reciprocal of the given line. To understand this stiff phrasing, let's go back to our example. We're given the slope of one line, which goes between C and A, and its slope is 1/3. This means that we can use this number to calculate the slope of the perpendicular line, the one we're asked to solve. And negative reciprocal of 1/3 would be -3. So there are two parts to this relationship. The first part means that two lines are moving in the opposite directions. If the line AC has a positive slope, it is rising from left to right. The perpendicular line necessarily has the opposite or negative slope, and it is actually falling from left to right. So that explains the negative part. And the reciprocal means that we have to flip the fraction. If we have the slope of 1/3, the reciprocal of that, or the perpendicular line's slope, would be 3/1. And once we add the two pieces together, we get the slope of BD to be -3. Let's now refer to the answer choices. Answer choice A gives us an equation that has the slope of -3, which fits our requirements. And answer choice B also has the slope of -3, which also fits our requirements. Whereas answer choices C and D have it at 1/3. So while it's negative, which is correct, it's not a reciprocal of the slope CE. So answer choices C and D do not fit our requirements. Now let's decide which one of the first two is our answer choice. As we know, any line has two major descriptors. It has a slope and it has a y-intercept. And we can see that the slope works in both cases. So let's identify the y-intercept. In the answer choice A, it is implied that the y-intercept equals to -1, which is the last part of the equation. If we visually assess what we have, we can see that line BD intersects the y-axis at the point of y equals 3. So -1 is incorrect, and thus we can cross out A, and we're left with the answer choice B. If we multiply -3 by x minus 1, we would get -3x plus 3. And such look would tell us that +3 is the point at which the y-axis is intersected by the line. And that is exactly what we just saw. So our correct choice would be answer choice B.